I'm Gerald Thompson. I'm 80 years old. The state of Mississippi stole 52 years of my life for a murder I didn't commit. Yesterday, they sent me a check for $50 as compensation. $50 for 18,980 days. I missed my mother's funeral because they said I was a monster. I watched the real killer confess, and still it took 4 more years to let me go. Let me tell you what they can do with their $50. Let me tell you what happened. Here's my regret. I regret that I ever believed, for even a single moment, that the justice system would see me as a human being. You see, it cost me my mother. It cost me my entire adult life. It cost me the ability to feel anything but a hollow, exhausted rage. And the lesson? The lesson is that the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed for people like me. Your freedom isn't a right. It's a privilege they can revoke with a lie and a nod. To understand that number, you have to go back to the beginning. To the man I was before they took him. I was 28. I lived in Jackson, worked at a garage. I had a mother, Eleanor, who I loved more than anything. I believed in things like fairness. I believed that if you told the truth, it would matter. I was naive. In the summer of 1971, a 16-year-old girl was killed. And because I was a black man who lived nearby, I became a convenient answer. They came for me on a Tuesday. The air was thick, like soup. The interrogation room was a concrete box. 2 detectives, their shirts stained with sweat, circled me. They said they had witnesses. They said they had evidence. They said I could make it easy or hard. They talked for hours. My head swam. I was tired. I was scared. They offered me a way out. They said, just sign this paper, admit what you did, and it'll be easier. My hand shook so bad I could barely hold the pen. I signed. That signature was the first brick in my tomb. I met my lawyer 10 minutes before court. He smelled of bourbon and cheap cologne. He patted my arm and said, just let the process work, son. The judge called me boy. The all-white jury didn't look at me once. Not once. The evidence was just the story they'd built in that airless room. It took 45 minutes. 45 minutes to erase a life. They sentenced me to life. And then the real sentence began, the decades of screaming into a void. Prison isn't just bars. It's the sound of your own voice echoing back at you, unheard. I filed appeals. I taught myself law from books in the library. My fingers would trace words I barely understood at first. I wrote thousands of letters. To lawyers, to judges, to innocence projects. The replies, when they came, were all the same. Cases hopeless. No new evidence. Procedurally barred. My mother wrote me every week. Her faith was a tiny, distant star. I clung to that star, to her. Until one day, even that light was taken. A guard slid a piece of paper under my cell door. No words, just the slip. It said, Inmate Thompson, your next of kin is passed. My mother, Eleanor. She died believing her son was a monster. A monster who raped and killed a child. They wouldn't let me go to her funeral. I screamed. I beat my hands against the steel door until the skin split. I screamed until my voice was just a rasp. No one came. No one ever came. After that, a part of me shut down. I became a machine. Wake, work, read law, sleep. The years blurred into a gray smear. Then, in 2019, a young kid was assigned to my cell. Talkative. One night he's telling me stories from the outside, and he says, you hear about that old guy? Dying in some hospital, confessed to a real old murder. Some girl in Jackson back in the 70s. Said the cops helped him pin it on some other guy. He said the name. My name. He was just making conversation. He had no idea he just handed me a live grenade. There was no joy, no relief, just a cold, metallic clarity. They knew. Someone out there had always known. You'd think that would be it. Confession, freedom. But the system that convicted me in 45 minutes took 4 years to even begin to undo it. More motions, more hearings, more process. Lawyers with new hope in their eyes talking about DNA technology that didn't exist in 71. They tested old evidence. It excluded me. Of course it did. I'd known that for 52 years. The gears turned, slow and rusted, while I sat in the same cell. Finally, a date was set, an exoneration hearing. The word felt foreign in my mouth. The word felt foreign in my mouth. Exoneration. It sounded like something that happened to other people in stories, not to me, not in Mississippi. The day of the hearing, they gave me a suit to wear. It hung off me like I was a coat rack. My own body felt unfamiliar, thin and brittle from prison food and time. They walked me into the courtroom, the same kind of room that had taken my life, but this one was brighter. There were cameras, people I didn't know. The judge spoke. He used words like egregious error and miscarriage of justice. He talked about the deathbed confession, the DNA exclusion. He said the state was moving to vacate the conviction. It was all very clean, very legal, very quiet. There was no gavel slamming down to set me free, just a lot of papers being signed. My new lawyer, a young woman with tired, kind eyes, put her hand on my arm and whispered, "It's over, Mr. Thompson. You're free." I looked at her. I wanted to feel something. Gratitude, maybe. But all I felt was a vast, cold emptiness. Where was the bang? Where was the sound of the door breaking open? It was just paperwork. The final, boring paperwork of my destruction. They walked me out of the courthouse. That's when it hit me. The sun. It wasn't the weak, filtered light of the exercise yard. It was a physical weight, hot and blinding. I actually stumbled. The air, it didn't smell of bleach and sweat and despair. It smelled of exhaust and cut grass and something sweet I couldn't name. It was overwhelming. And the noise, it was a low, constant hum of engines, but not the right kind. Cars slid past, silent as sharks. People walked with their heads down, staring at little glowing screens in their hands. I stood on the steps, a free man, and I had no idea what planet I was on. My lawyer handed me a bag. It had the clothes I was arrested in, folded neatly. A pair of jeans, a work shirt. I'd kept them, a stupid, hopeful act from a lifetime ago. They didn't fit. Nothing fit. They gave me a bus ticket, a list of phone numbers for reintegration services, and a pat on the back. And then, just like that, they were gone. The lawyers went back to their offices, the cameras turned off. I was alone on the sidewalk with a plastic bag and a world I didn't understand. They found me a room in a halfway house, a small, boxy space with a bed, a table, a window that looked out at a brick wall. It was quieter than prison. That was the strangest part. At night, in Parchman, there was always sound. Someone coughing, a door clanging, a man crying. Here, the silence was absolute. It pressed in on my ears. I'd lie awake, my hands behind my back out of habit, and wait for the count. It never came. I tried to do the things they said I should. I met with a counselor. a nice young man who talked about processing trauma and building a new life. He'd ask me what my goals were. I'm 80 years old. My goal was to get through the day without feeling like I was going to scream. My goal was to remember how to cross a street without freezing in panic at the silent cars. He'd suggest I take a walk in the park. I went once. The green was too green. The children's laughter sounded sharp and alien. I saw a mother pushing a stroller and I thought of my mother, Eleanor, and how she'd never see this. How she died with that lie in her heart. I went back to my room and didn't leave for 2 days. Freedom isn't what you think. The anger I carried for decades, the fire that kept me reading law books and writing letters, it's still there. But it's tired. It's a heavy, exhausted thing sitting in the bottom of my stomach. I can't feel joy. People tell me I should be happy. I'm out. I'm exonerated. I look at a sunset, a truly beautiful one, and my brain doesn't see beauty. It does math. I missed 18,980 of these. I try to talk to people at the diner the few times I go, but there's a canyon between us. They see a frail old man. They don't see the 28-year-old mechanic who never got to come home. They don't see the ghost. I am a ghost, walking through a world that built itself while I was in a hole. And then the mail came. It was a plain white envelope, State of Mississippi, official business. I opened it, my hands steady now, not like they were in that interrogation room, just steady and old. And there it was, the check. State of Mississippi, pay to the order of Gerald Thompson, $50.00. I sat down at the little table. I stared at it. I read every word, every number. $50, compensation, for 52 years. For my mother's broken heart and her lonely death. For every birthday that passed in silence. For every letter I wrote that was thrown away. For every scream that hit a concrete wall and went nowhere. For the feel of a steering wheel I'd never grip again. For the children I never had. For the love I never knew. For 18,980 sunrises I saw through bars. This is what they valued it all at. Less than $1 for each year. This wasn't an oversight. This was the calculation. This is the system's apology. The only justice it will ever offer me. You see, it's not broken. A broken machine doesn't work. This machine works perfectly. It took them 45 minutes to destroy me. It took them 52 years to admit it. And it took them one piece of paper to tell me what I was worth, $50. This is the truth, typed on official paper. This is what they did. This is what they did. And I sat there at that little table holding that check, and I felt nothing, not even anger. Just a kind of cold, final understanding. Like a math problem you've been trying to solve for 52 years, and the answer is just zero. It's zero. I didn't cash it. I framed it. I went to a dollar store, bought a cheap plastic frame, and I put it on the wall next to my bed. My lawyer, the young woman, she came by a week later. She saw it there. She went pale. She said, "Mr. Thompson, you don't have to look at that every day." I told her, "Yes, I do. I need to remember what the truth looks like. It looks like this." She started crying, right there in my little room. She was crying for me, and I just watched her. I couldn't cry. I'd used up all my tears for my mother decades ago. All that was left was this dry, hollow place. I offered her a glass of water. Can you believe that? An instinct from a different life. Hostility. She just shook her head and left. And I was alone again with the check on the wall. That's when the real prison started, the one they don't have bars for. The silence in this room is worse than Parchman. In Parchman, the silence was full. It was full of rage and pain and the sound of men breathing in the dark. Here, the silence is empty. It's just air. And in that empty silence, my mind goes back. Not to the big moments, not to the trial or the confession. It goes to the small ones, the ones that cost more. It goes to a Tuesday, a random Tuesday in maybe 1975. I'm in the prison library. I'm reading a law book about habeas corpus. My finger is under the words, and for a second, I understand it. A clear, bright line of logic, a way out. My heart starts beating so fast I think I might pass out. I write it down, my hand shaking, sure that this is it. This is the key. I spend weeks crafting the motion. I mail it, and then I wait, and wait. And 8 months later it comes back. A form letter. Denied. Procedurally barred. That Tuesday, that little flash of hope, that's what they stole. They didn't just steal the years, they stole the Tuesdays. They stole the possibility that a Tuesday could mean anything but the same gray despair as Monday. It goes to my mother's handwriting, the way her E in Eleanor would curl at the top, every week. My dearest Jerry, I pray for you. I know the truth. Stay strong. For 20 years, those letters came, and then they stopped. And the silence after that was a different kind of silence. It was the silence of being truly alone in the universe. The one person who knew you were real, who held the memory of you as a boy, was gone. And they took that from me. They took the chance to hold her hand one more time, to say, "Mama, I'm innocent." To have her look in my eyes and see it. They took that closure and they burned it. You see, the killer's confession on his deathbed? That wasn't justice. That was just information, a footnote. It didn't give me back my Tuesdays. It didn't give me back my mother's last moments. It just confirmed what I already knew in a way the law was finally forced to accept. And the law moves so slow. It moves like erosion. It took 4 years after that confession. 4 years of me sitting in that cell knowing the truth was out there, loose in the world, and yet I was still in that cage. That might have been the cruelest part. The knowing didn't set me free. The bureaucracy did. And bureaucracy has no soul to feel shame. So now I'm here. An 80-year-old man in a room that smells like old carpet and microwave meals. I look at my hands. They're old man's hands, spotted, veins standing up. But in my head, I'm still 28. I'm the man who could fix an engine, who could feel a summer breeze on his skin and think about tomorrow. That man is trapped inside this old body. He's screaming to get out. But there's no getting out. Time isn't a river you can swim back up. My counselor asks me what I want. What do I want? I want my mother back. I want the chain of days that should have been mine, the weddings, the children, the tired back after a long day's work, the quiet contentment of a life lived. I want to not flinch when a car drives by too quietly. I want to have a conversation where I don't have to explain what a cell means to me. I want to look at a tree and just see a tree, not count how many I missed seeing grow. But you can't want those things. Wanting them is a knife twisting in a wound that never closed. So I don't want. I just am. I am a fact. A piece of evidence. Proof of a crime much bigger than the one they accused me of. And that check on the wall? It's not an insult. It's a receipt. It's the price tag. $50 for a human life. That's the market rate. That's what the system budgets for. They didn't miscalculate. They did the math. They added up my skin color, my neighborhood, my court-appointed lawyer, and the political need for a closed case in 1971. They factored in the cost of keeping me for 52 years versus the cost of admitting a mistake. And the balance sheet said, $50. Maybe for the paper and the ink and the postage. So my regret, my one clear regret, is that I ever believed in the lie. I believed in fairness. I believed in truth. I believed that if I was innocent, it would matter. That was my crime. That was my sin. Believing that I was a person in their eyes. I wasn't. I was a problem to be solved, a box to be checked. And now I'm a line item, paid in full. I look at that check every morning, and I say it out loud to the empty room. $50. It's my prayer now. It's the only truth I have left. It's the only truth I have left. And that truth is this: they will never see you. Not as a person. Not as a man with a mother who loved him, with hands that could fix an engine, with a future that was his own. They see a problem, a statistic, a case number. And when the problem becomes too inconvenient to ignore, they don't solve it. They price it. $50. Here's what I learned, sitting in that silence with that check on the wall. I learned that hope in a place like that is a dangerous thing. It's not a light. It's a hook. For 52 years, I let them set that hook in me over and over. Hope that the next appeal would be heard. Hope that a new lawyer would see the truth. Hope that my mother would live to see me walk free. Every time I felt that tug of hope, it just pulled the hook deeper, tearing something else inside me. The hope wasn't for me, it was for them. It kept me quiet. It kept me compliant. It kept me believing in the process while the process digested my life. What I should have done, what I couldn't have done, because I was a 28-year-old black man in Mississippi in 1971, was to stop believing them the moment that detective slid that confession across the table. I should have seen it for what it was, the end. Not the beginning of a legal journey, but the end of my life as I knew it. All the energy I spent learning their law, writing their letters, speaking their language, it was wasted. The system doesn't listen to reason. It responds to pressure, external pressure. The dying man's confession was pressure. The DNA was pressure. My thousands of letters were just noise. So my advice to you, if you're listening to this and you feel that cold dread, that sense that the machine is turning toward you or someone you love, is this: do not talk to them without a lawyer. A real one you choose. But more than that, do not internalize their logic. Do not start thinking their thoughts. The moment you begin to believe that you can reason your way out of an unreasonable system, you are lost. You must see it from the outside. You must gather your witnesses, your evidence, your voices on the outside. And you must make a noise so loud they can't pretend not to hear it. Do not be a polite prisoner in your own hope. Be a furious citizen on the outside of the cell door, even if you're the one inside. And for those of you who are on the outside looking in, who have never felt the click of handcuffs or the stale breath of a holding cell, look. Just look. Don't turn away because it's ugly or because it makes you feel helpless. My story isn't an anomaly. It's a receipt. A receipt for a transaction that happens every single day. Your freedom feels like a right because it's never been taken from you. Understand that it is a fragile, conditional gift for millions of people. Your job is not to feel sorry for me. Your job is to be a witness, to remember my name, to remember that the system is not blind, It has very specific eyes, and it chooses who it sees and who it erases. You still have time. That's the brutal, beautiful truth I can't have. You have time to look at the world with clear eyes, to vote in your local elections for judges and prosecutors, to serve on a jury and actually look at the defendant as a human being, to question the easy story, the quick confession, the open and shut case. You have time to be inconvenient, to make noise, to be the external pressure that might, just might, keep the machine from grinding someone else into a $50 line item. This act of speaking to a camera, it's my last form of appeal. Not to a court, but to you. This channel, from what I understand, is a place for stories like mine, stories they don't want told. If hearing this has meant something to you, if it has made that abstract word injustice have a face and a name, my name, Gerald Thompson, then I'm asking you to subscribe, to turn on those notifications. Let this channel be a gathering of witnesses. Let's not be alone in this. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you see when you look at the system now. Tell me the name of someone you know who's caught in it. Share this story. Hit that like button, not because you like it. God knows there's nothing to like. But because it's a way of saying, I am a witness. I will not look away. And if you have a story, if you have learned a hard truth through years of silence or struggle, there's a form, they tell me, in the description. Submit it. Your story might be the pressure that loosens one bolt in the machine. Your voice might be the one that finally gets heard. They gave me $50 in a plastic bag with my old life in it. They think the account is settled. But I'm putting this story into the world, and that's a debt they can never repay. My time is gone, but your time is now. Don't let them waste it. Don't let them price it. See the machine for what it is. And then, for God's sake, get in its way.